Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show, and my special guest is Cynthia Sowden, who's the author of Ride Minnesota. She goes by Cindy, so you can call her that. And the website is mnride.net. Again, that's mnride.net, and the book we'll be talking about, you can find it at Amazon and a lot of retail locations as well. So first of all, welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Well, we're glad to have you here. So let's talk about Ride Minnesota. There's 23 great motorcycle rides outlined here in our great state of Minnesota. So what inspired you to write the book, first of all?
I saw a need. Motorcycle tourism is increasing. You're seeing fewer of the hardcore bikers. Maybe they're still. I know they're still around, but the old image of the tough guy, Hell's Angel, beat 'em up kind of biker is changing, and there are a lot of couples who like to go on weekend rides to various places. And I looked around and I didn't see a book that could tell them where to go, so that's why I wrote Ride Minnesota.
So you wrote a book to tell people where to go.
Yes, I've always wanted to tell people where to go, and now I can do it.
Yeah, and I can tell them in a positive way. So let's talk a little bit about the experience of touring our state on motorbike, because you know I've ridden some motorbike, not a lot, but I've actually visited with my wife a lot about this and said this is something we have to do more of. So when you think about seeing the state and seeing all these different places, sitting on the back of a motorbike because you ride with your husband, right? Talk about how that experience is a little different than just driving around the country in a car.
When you're on a motorcycle, you become part of the scenery. You are in the atmosphere. You're surrounded by the smells and the sights and the sounds that you don't get when you're sealed up in a car with the air conditioning on. When the lilacs are in bloom, it's just gorgeous. They not only look good, they smell good. The downside is you go by a hog farm and it's not so good. But but you just feel so much more alive, and I think you see more. And it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to believe that all these different routes do look differently. They are experienced differently from a motorbike. There's a strip of highway that you were talking about on 43. Talk about that and why that's one of your favorites.
Minnesota Highway 43 runs from Grand Rapids to Effie, a very small town. And it's only about 45 miles long, but it has 14 consecutive miles of curves and hills. It is just pure motorcycle heaven. It's surrounded by the Chippewa National Forest. The trees come right up to the road, and you all of a sudden break out and see a beautiful lake. And there are several lakes in that area. So you go from the sparkling blue lakes to the intimacy of the forest and the pine smells and everything. And it's just a very beautiful ride. I have to believe that you've seen a lot of really cool places being out on the road. And talk about some of the restaurant experiences and places that you've discovered out riding. One of the places that we really liked for breakfast is called the Cafe Stuga. It's in Harris, Minnesota on Highway 61. And they just serve a marvelous apple stuffed pancake. And the cinnamon. It was very good. We did sneak across the border when we were riding in western Minnesota, and we went to Wahpeton, North Dakota, and found a great steakhouse there. And it was very cheap, but oh man.
So does getting out and riding, does it kind of appeal to somebody's exploratory nature? Is that part of the reason why you do that? You like to discover new things? Yeah,
my husband and I always like to poke around and find new things. And you know, when we were younger, we used to go up and canoe in the boundary waters and go from lake to lake and explore. And this is just a different way of exploring, but it's fun.
Yeah. So you talked about the route between Grand Rapids and Effie being one of your favorite. What other great rides have you been on here?
It's a little straighter, in fact, a lot straighter, but we went from Breckenridge up Highway 71 to, I think it's 71, to the northwestern corner of Minnesota. There's a little tiny town there called Noyes, Noyes, and it's virtually abandoned. It was a U.S. Customs station at one time, and they moved it over to North Dakota a while back. But this little town still has the border station building there, and it's like people just walked out yesterday. There are cigarette butts in the ashtrays, yet you look inside, and the waste baskets are still in the halls, and it's just very funny to see it. And
so it's kind of like it's a Minnesota ghost town.
It is, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And that's in Noyes.
Noyes, yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. So, all this different discovery and stuff that you've done, you've had some help in getting the book published, and love the cover that's on here. What recommendations would you have for somebody who's thinking about being a biker themselves and going out and discovering? What are some of the first steps that you would recommend taking, having ridden bike a lot yourself?
First of all, make sure your bike's in top running condition. Check the tires and the oil regularly, and we always make sure that we've got at least a half a tank of gas, especially when you get into places like Noyes in the far corners of Minnesota. There are no gas stations. The fewer towns and fewer people there are, the fewer gas stations, and you don't want to be caught. You don't want to be caught in the Red River Valley all by your little lonesome. So it's just basic stuff. Just take care of very basic motorcycle care. Well, you have a lot of really helpful stuff laid out here in the book on different things for people to consider as far as legalities, and a lot of very cool locations to go to. If you're interested in taking a bike ride and touring Minnesota, you're going to want to get a copy of this book, Ride Minnesota, and you can find it at mnride.net. Again, the website, mnride.net. And then there are several retail locations around the state. In fact, right here in our hometown, Elk River, Minnesota, is Zylstra Harley. So a lot of these are Harley dealerships. Yes, Harley has been a very great supporter.
Yeah. And so if you show up at a Harley store and it's not there, tell them to get it. Ride Minnesota. Again, it's at mnride.net. My guest has been Cindy Sowden, the author of the book. Thanks for listening.